Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today to this episode of Talking Crops with HFC. Today, my co-host is Jordan Parr. Jordan is a sales manager for our company. And today, Jordan and I have a special guest, and his name is Mr. Darrin Holder. Darrin works for WinField United, and WinField is one of our partners. We buy a lot of chemistry from WinField. It's a great company, and we appreciate you being here, Darrin.
Yep, thanks for having me, Kenny.
Jordan, you just chime in, and we'll get started.
Yeah, so today, Darrin, we really want to come to everybody and just kind of talk through surfactants, if you will. So I mean, I've been in the business not as long as you all have. I still got a lot of color left in my hair, but surfactant is one of those things. If it's just something you add, it's a surfactant, right? And we always feel like there's a lot of gray area as to what you're getting and what you're not getting. So really today, if we could kind of dive into the depths of that as to what are you really getting and what are you needing? Obviously herbicide applications. Some stuff won't work without it. You take paraquat. You take paraquat with and without. It's not going to. It might work, but it's really not going to, right? So, kind of, if you will, kind of run us through that and what you see on those products.
Yeah, so absolutely, Jordan. Thank you. So, a lot of people use the word adjuvant and surfactant synonymously, and they're not. A surfactant is a type of adjuvant, and surfactants, by definition, basically make water droplet spread. We always said they make water wetter, and there are specific herbicides. You mentioned gramoxone that need coverage. Got to have coverage to kill, and the best way to get incremental coverage is to make that droplet spread once it hits the leaf surface. So, from a surfactant perspective, there's three things I look at. First thing I look at is surfactant load. Like you said, there's lots of options from a surfactant perspective, but that's the first place for me to start because I should expect to pay more for a 90-10 versus an 80-20 because that means I've got 10% more surfactant. And the more surfactant that I have in the actual product, a superior job I should do of making that droplet spread and also reducing surface tension, which we'll get to here in just a minute. And so that's the first thing I look at. And you've also got to know, I think about this a lot back in my retail days when I sat in your chair. There's a lot of things I didn't know that I do today because I've been involved in different things. You've got to look at that label, right? So a lot of people, there's no regulation in surfactants. I can go make one in the bathroom right now, put it in a jug and sell it to you, and there's really no one that can stop me from doing that. As long as I use EPA approved ingredients. But you got to look at that ingredient list and know what you're getting for the money spent. And because there's been instances, I remember back at Spray Clinic, Kenny, we had 15 years ago with Henry Farmers Co-op, and we looked at a surfactant label that a guy was buying, and he said, hey, it's 100% surfactant. And right on the label is 50% water. Yeah. Well, that not only was he he was being misled, but the end result was not what he needed it to be with only having a 50% surfactant. So that's the first thing I look at. What's the difference between 80-20, 90-10, and then is it really an 80-20 or a 90-10? And so the second thing I look at, which that surfactant load will affect, is I want to look at contact angle. Water naturally, you set it on a surface, is going to be about a 90-93 degree contact angle. And I'm only going to have access to the pores that droplet touches as it is sitting on top of the surface. I want to spread that out because I want to maximize that coverage, and I want, like you take gramoxone, contact kill. I want that chemistry to get access to as much of that leaf surface as I can, and also get as much access to the pores. Right. And so as you look at this picture here, we've got water on the right, we've got a cheap 80-20 in the middle, and we've got a 90-10, a superior, a top-end 90-10 surfactant on the left. You can see that both of them make that water droplet spread, which is what by nature a surfactant should do. Now, why is I'm calling this one in the middle a cheap 80-20, and I'm calling the one on the left a superior 90-10? There's a difference in cost per acre of those things.
Sure.
And it's much more expensive than the other. Contact angle is only part of it. I'm also looking at surface tension. Water, by its nature, repels lots of things, and lots of things repel water, i.e. the cuticle of the leaf surface. And so as you watch this video, and I've got straight water on the right, and then I've got the cheaper 80-20 in the middle, and I've got preference on the far left here. As we drop this 100% cotton string in these cups, you notice immediately that the water, the string just sits on top of the water.
Yeah.
Doesn't go anywhere. The surface tension is there. There is a tension between that water surface and that cotton string. And the 80-20 immediately starts to absorb water. And the 90-10 on the far left, which is preference, it immediately starts to absorb water. And within 30 seconds, it's sitting on the bottom of this cup, where it's another probably 30, 40 seconds before that cheap 80/20 gets to the bottom. That's surface tension. And a superior wetter will reduce surface tension completely. It will make that water droplet spread, but it'll also reduce the tension that you naturally have between that water droplet and that surface to allow it to penetrate, i.e. the leaf cuticle, which is important. Because at the end of the day, Jordan, what we're wanting, we want to get the adjuvant right to get the best spray application that we can get. We don't want to do it again. No one makes money in a respray.
Right.
It
So
might
it's
not-
kind of like mixing oil and water. Then, if you will, right? Actually putting the two together. You know, and I mean, that's something that we think about, and I think you were getting ready to say, you know, hey, as custom applicators, what do we all not have? Time, right? So, I mean, if you spray with a inferior product and you don't get the kill, or you might get the kill, but it might take 3 or 4 more days, you know, so then you don't have 3 or 4 days that maybe you could have planted those early soybeans or that corn that could have got out, and then you had to sit for 2 weeks. Man, I don't know about where y'all are, Darrin, but where we are here, 3 or 4 days matters a lot in the springtime anymore. And so, you know, it may not be a realized gain that you're losing because, hey, I got the crop planted, I got it harvested, it's fine. But what could that 3 or 4 days have gained you just from having a better efficacy out of your herbicide? So that's I know it's a lot to take in, you know, and everybody says, hey, surfactants are surfactants, and that's just not true. And Darrin, we are super glad that you came here today and kind of enlightened us on why we do what we do and what we're doing for y'all, and basically to improve everybody's return on investment. And Kenny, I know we talk about it all the time. If you ain't got a return on investment, you're going backwards.
Yeah, that's our focus. Our focus at the end of the day is to help the local farmer have a better return on investment on the farm at the end of the year. And we pay way more money for herbicides than we do for surfactants. And sometimes maybe buying a cheap surfactant could be a bad thing. So appreciate it, Darrin, and thanks for joining us. And we'll see you again soon with another episode of Talking Crops with HFC.